Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time, this is a video all about YouTube's latest new bump in the road, COPPA. Now, COPPA really doesn't have anything to do with PIPA or SOPA, although it sounds like it's the same sort of thing. This is a recent ruling by the FTC after they won a $172 million lawsuit against Google and YouTube. Yeah, it was a $170 million settlement because YouTube screwed up and didn't follow particular procedures and didn't inform the FTC of certain things. So now they are going to have to follow COPPA. Now, COPPA is a law that has already existed. So, COPPA is a 1998 U.S. law that restricts operators of websites and online services from collecting the personal information of under 13 users without parental permission. Its original goal was to prevent kids from giving out their names, addresses, phone numbers, and other data online that could put them in danger from online pet predators. However, in 2013, the FTC amended COPPA, broadening the scope to 1. Expand the definition of operators to include creators who publish on ad-assisted platforms like YouTube. 2. Expand the definition of personal information to include persistent identifiers such as web cookies, which advertisers rely on to run ads matched to an appropriate audience, colloquially known as targeted ads or personalized ads. For 6 years, the amendment was never enforced against YouTube creators. However, as a part of the aforementioned settlement with YouTube, the FTC has stated that they intend to start enforcing the regulations on creators individually. In practice, that means as of January 1st, 2020, all content creators will have to designate whether or not each of their videos is directed to children, aka kid-directed or child-directed, by checking a box during the upload process. Checking that box will prevent the video from running personalized ads. Newly uploaded videos aren't the only ones creators will have to categorize. Per the FTC's current settlement, every single video on every single channel must be categorized, including all previously uploaded videos. That amounts to millions of hours of content, which must be manually reviewed by tens of thousands of creators to see if their content meets a number of factors that would make it directed to children. YouTube has notified creators about the impending changes and published preliminary information about it on a YouTube support forum, but plenty of individuals and organizations are still unclear about the broad strokes and idiosyncrasies of the new protocols. Now, this is actually straight from YouTube. We're making a few changes to how we collect and use data on kids' content on YouTube.com. These changes will address concerns raised by the U.S. Federal Trade Commission regarding our compliance under the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA. In the coming months, you will be required to tell us if your content is made for kids. In addition, we'll use machine learning to help us identify videos that clearly target young audiences. At a high level, content that is made for kids has an emphasis on children or children's characters, popular children's programming or animated characters, play acting or stories using children's toys, child protagonists engaging in common natural play patterns such as play acting or imaginative play, popular children's songs, stories, or poems. So this bit here definitely does help clarify things. There's nothing in this that says video games in general. There's nothing in this that says popular children's. Well, I mean, you know, it does have popular children's programming or animated characters. That's a little bit vague. So that could apply to, hey, if you review cartoons, well, you know, that applies to you, and you better follow the rules. But there are plenty of channels on YouTube that review cartoons or animated movies, but they're not really for kids. So YouTube needs to figure that out. And I don't necessarily think a machine learning algorithm is really the best solution to this. They really should consider having actual people review and look at these things, because having a machine do this is a lot. And I will say this about their algorithm: over the past couple years, it has improved dramatically in terms of its accuracy, in terms of not flagging videos like mine that have no copyrighted content in them just because I talked about a movie, or a movie title is in the title of my video. So they've gotten better at not doing that, but it still took them a while. And these are high stakes, because if you get caught by the FTC with content that is targeting kids that you haven't checked the box to, or they think you're targeting kids, you could be subject to a fine of $42,000. And I don't know about you, but I don't have $42,000. Do you have $42,000 you can throw down the drain? And most people don't. So the stakes are a lot higher than a copyright claim or something like that, where you can dispute it, or you just have some privileges taken away from a YouTube channel if you get a strike. This is much different. This is potentially a $42,000 fine. Now, I would like to see, and I'm pretty sure it's out there, I would like to see the extra info on that, whether or not it's always a $42,000 fine per video, or it's up to $42,000. Because up to $42,000 makes a heck of a lot more sense. The FTC, I think they greatly exaggerated the average income of people who are on YouTube, because if they think that everyone could just afford $42,000, that's a bit much. It seems like overkill to me. It reminds me of the FBI and their warnings before movies and stuff like that, where, you know, don't pirate this content or you'll be subject to a $500,000 fine and a certain amount of time in jail. And if you look at the cases of piracy, rarely, if ever, does anyone get slapped with that high of a penalty. So it's one of those things where I don't know if they're actually going to go through or go forward with a $42,000 fine for every video. But, you know, that's considered to be violating their standards. But, you know, I wouldn't put it past the government. They're a bunch of greedy bastards. They really are. And they're a bunch of control freaks. So I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being the case. So here's YouTube. Here's some more from YouTube directly. Ultimately, you know your audience best, and we will rely on you to designate in studio your videos are made for kids. If a creator attempts to avoid categorizing their content correctly, there may be consequences on the YouTube platform for that creator. We will stop serving personalized ads on content that's made for kids, whether designated by you or our classifier. So this is actually the main point of this enforcement, or this particular new law for YouTube, is to stop personalized ads from running on YouTube, which honestly does not apply to every ad. It applies to a good majority of ads for content creators, specifically the ones that have 100,000 subs or less. But mainly, this is the kind of stuff that a lot of these bigger toy channels that have popped up just to spam content for kids to watch so they can make a buttload of cash, that the personalized ads thing applies to them, and to them the most. So what this is doing is taking that revenue away from them and making it so they can't abuse the algorithm anymore and take advantage of kids. And you know, to be perfectly honest, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's a good thing, and I do feel that YouTube should have been doing that from the start. I don't think it should have taken a $170 million lawsuit with the FTC for them to start enforcing that. Because there's been a lot of these channels that have popped up over the past few years that are absolutely 100% just taking advantage of the algorithm and just targeting kids with ads so they can just rake in cash. This will make it so that is something that's not going to be viable for them anymore. And to be perfectly honest, they deserve some kind of blowback. These channels are the main reason why we had Adpocalypse 1 or Adpocalypse 2 or any future Adpocalypse that we would end up having on YouTube, is because, for the most part, due to these channels. So this rule being enforced, forcing these channels to knock it off and no longer be able to abuse the algorithm, is not really a bad thing in theory. It's just honestly how it's going to be applied that's worrisome. Because YouTube has been a worrying platform for the past few years, ever since it got bought out by Google and Susan Wojcicki came into power as the CEO. As soon as it started to try to be TV, things started to go downhill. But this is something that I think a lot of people are looking at as some new latest apocalypse. And just like the other apocalypses on YouTube, YouTube is still soldiered on and weathered the storm. So I honestly kind of see this as the same sort of thing. But I'm still worried because of the fact that you have this machine learning thing going on in here in terms of what's going to be analyzing and finding which content is kid friendly. It is a bit vague of a statement. What do they mean by kid friendly or kid targeted? It seems like the FTC has given YouTube some actual parameters, but some of them they're a little bit too vague. I mean, children or children's characters. So I can't review any Disney movies, or I can, but if I want to make any money on the reviews, I have to check a box or something. It's one of those things that it is a little confusing. But speaking of the box thing, this clearly, at least to me, from my interpretation, it only applies to channels with monetization. If you look at this document, you see all these things, and you see all this stuff that lists ad runs and ads and all this other kind of stuff. The exact definition of kid directed is entirely based on the discretion of the FTC and is determined by evaluating the given video against 10 factors, including the subject matter of the site or service, the video's visual content, the videos of animated characters with child-orientated activities and incentives, music or other audio content in the video, age of the models featured in the video, presence of child celebrities or celebrities who appeal to children in the video, language or other characteristics of the website or online service, and whether advertising, promoting, or appearing on the website or online service is directed at children. Now, this seems extremely vague from the two-filter article, but YouTube is actually listing a little bit more detailed emphasis on those few things that I mentioned earlier. But they still are up to interpretation a little bit too much. But at the end of the day, it's all something that affects only content creators who have monetization or who want to keep monetization. Because there are so many videos on YouTube and there's so much content to go through, and the FTC only has so much time and YouTube only has so much time. They're not going to worry about content that's not monetized. That's not the whole point of this. This is about trying to prevent monetized creators from making money off of targeted ads for kids who don't necessarily know any better. So that's really what this is about. Could it turn into something else where they start to try to censor stuff or try to screw other content creators over, or the algorithm makes a mistake, or blah blah blah? Absolutely. 100%. That's definitely a possibility. But this isn't something that's going to affect you if you're not monetized. It's only going to affect you if you're monetized. And this is the sad thing, is now you have a YouTube where it's trying so hard to be more kid friendly. I mean, YouTubers who want to have monetization now have a whole list of words and things they can't even say, because if they say it, if they say even say the word gun, they can get demonetized. So now they have to not only follow those rules, can't swear, can't say the word fuck. They can't do any of that. They can't talk about murder. They can't say certain words. They can't talk about certain terms. And they can't talk about certain content. And now, if they are following those rules, that laundry list of rules and guidelines, now they have this other thing on top of it, where they have to worry about potentially getting fined $42,000 if they don't check a certain video as kid friendly or kid targeted or not, or something. Like, it's one of those things. I think it's one of those things that it it's one of those things you need to check it to prove that the video is actually something that you can have kid targeted ads on, instead of something that isn't really intended for that audience, or vice versa. But this is the thing, like, I'm worried about the same content creators who have been abusing this algorithm, finding a new way to abuse the algorithm, and just making more content that's specifically targeted towards kids, and just checking the box and still raking in cash. What's going to prevent them from doing that, especially if it's the same kind of content they still already do? So that just popped in my head. I'm like, how are they gonna take out those content creators if the content still technically falls under that particular category? Um, but yeah, they say they say we asked the creators to go to the creator studios and disable personalized ads called interest-based ads under the advanced tab for a few days. This is from TubeFilter. Based on our initial testing, a video not running personalized ads sees a loss in revenue somewhere from 60% to 90%. So like I said, this does affect a lot of people who your video's revenue could drop somewhere between $10 and $40. So facing a loss that large might be enough to make some content creators consider not checking the directed to children box, even if they make videos for kids. But the consequences for that are stiff. If the FTC decides an upload video is kid-directed and sees it is not marked as kid-directed, the creator could face a fine of over $42,000 per video. That financial liability is enough to bankrupt most creators. And that is insane. And it says over $42,000. Over. Not up to $42,000. Over $42,000. So they could be fined even more than $42,000. But this really applies to people who make content that's directed towards kids. But what constitutes content that's directed towards kids is a little bit too vague right now. So that needs to be clarified going forward. So I guess YouTube also says, we'll stop serving personalized ads on content that's made for kids, blah, 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 blah. Some features will no longer be available on this type of content, like comments. Yeah, I remember seeing that. That started to be rolled out fairly recently, where you had certain content creators would have their comment section just completely disappear, and like nobody could communicate with them, nobody could say anything, and that's because of fucking pedophiles. That's why, because there really was a bunch of like legit pedophile rings who were hanging around on YouTube and preying on kids on videos that were targeted or made for kids. So I mean that's it's really fucked up, but that's the truth. So that's why a lot of the comments were disabled for a lot of content creators who were making videos for kids, because of these pedophiles that had pedophile rings where they were hanging around on YouTube. Yeah, so it seems like this is really something that is strictly for YouTubers who make content that is appealing to kids, or is targeted to kids, and they want monetization. If you don't care about monetization and you're making content that isn't for kids, you're fine. This is not going to affect you. So this is not one of those things where you have to worry about your channel's going to be banned or you need to leave or you need to go somewhere else, because it's, from what I've been reading and from what I've been looking at, this doesn't really affect you. Now, here's a little bit more info before I cut this video, before I stop chatting with you guys and gals. Um, this bit really made me feel better about this. So this is from an actual user on YouTube who was wondering about what's going on and actually contacted YouTube directly and asked them what the whole deal is. Some user named Everyday is Heavenly. Hi, I contacted YouTube shortly after this announcement. I was freaking out because, like you, I took the no personalized ads, meaning demonetized. I talked with YouTube. I even have an email from them stating that it does not mean demonetized. What personal ads are is ads based on what your user watches. Like how when you look up dog toys on Google and then go to Facebook, it's full of dog ads. Why? It's because you're being tracked, which is fine and all until it comes to spying on children. Starting about 4 months, the ads on children-related content will be based on the content rather than the user. YouTube said that our ads on child content will now be based on keywords, topics, and devices. I just think it needs to be clear, because when someone's told that we demonetize completely, it can be very devastating and depressing. No personalized ads doesn't mean no ads. They just cannot spy on children. So mainly they're focusing on personalized ads. Not all ads in general, personalized ads. So, and since it's all ad oriented, and this whole rule and this whole ruling keeps mentioning ads, anyone who's worrying about, and I understand it because it's kind of hard to decipher and filter out and understand all of these things, but just to ease your worries, I am 99% sure that this does not apply to videos that are demonetized or aren't trying to make any money or aren't for kids, period. There's too many factors involved, too many things that are honestly kind of impossible to figure out effectively to try to determine if every single video on YouTube is not only ad friendly but for kids. So this is something where it's going to fall in your court, and you need to check the box off if it is content that is directed towards kids, and if you're monetized. If you're not monetized, you don't have any monetization, I highly doubt you're going to have to worry about getting fined $42,000 or anything like that, because this is a very ad-driven, ad-orientated ruling, specifically about the personalized ads. So you're not going to have personalized ads if you're not monetized. But it is going to affect a lot of content creators, and it is going to be an extra hassle that they have to deal with, and it really sucks that that's the case. But they should have been dealing with this from the start. But YouTube slipped up and waited their sweet ass time and didn't do the research and didn't think it was going to come back and bite them, and it did. So now the content creators have to deal with an extra hassle on top of this hassle with making sure they don't say certain things or talk about certain things to keep monetization. And now they got to deal with this. It sucks, but that's the reality of the situation here. Unless things change in the near future, unless there's extra information that I'm aware of, this is what is going on. This is what the latest pitfall is for YouTube, is this COPPA thing. And I'm still going to be making content because my videos aren't for kids. So, I swear like a fucking sailor in a lot of videos. So, and I don't make content that's directed to kids or is kid friendly. Although I think there are some instances where some kids have seen my videos. But and I'm not monetized. I'm not monetized. I got my monetization disabled by YouTube. I'm not going to try to re-enable it and risk losing my channel if they decide that it's still not capable of being monetized because they think that I seem to be spamming content, apparently. But it's one of those things that it doesn't affect me, but it's going to affect a lot of people. And that's really too bad. But I blame YouTube. I don't necessarily blame the FTC because this is something that's been in around for a while. Just because YouTube wasn't asked to be what they YouTube didn't enforce this doesn't mean that they legally weren't required to. They decided to think that the FTC wasn't going to care, and they didn't for a while until they realized, wait a second, you're breaking the law. And YouTube was like, no, we're not. We're gonna fight you in court. And then the law determined that yes, you are. And so then YouTube's like, oh, okay, all right, because the personalized ads, they make money for YouTube too. So you have to keep that in mind. That's the reason why YouTube was fighting it and didn't want to deal with this, because it affects their bottom line and affects the amount of money that they can make. So it all comes down to greed, really, on both sides. But isn't that life? Isn't that life for you? Life truly is beautiful sometimes. But anyway, yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on this topic. I've kind of blathered on enough about it, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on it. Let people know that it's not as apocalyptic as it might seem, because it's one of those things where it really is only focusing on a certain percentage of content that's being uploaded on YouTube. It's only going to affect people who are monetized. If you're not monetized, or you're not planning on being monetized, you don't have to worry about it. If you make content that is not even remotely for kids, then you don't have to worry about it either. So it's one of those things that it's there and it's going to be enforced. And if you do make videos that are intended for kids or have parameters that can apply to kids or could potentially be targeted towards kids, make sure you check that box. Or especially if you want to be monetized. If you don't want to be monetized and you don't care, then I really don't think you have to worry about it. I don't even know if the button will even be available to you. Why would it be available to you if your videos aren't monetized? Also, what happens though if you have videos that are content claimed by different studios? Do I have to check the box on those, or is it their responsibility to do that? That's where now I'm wondering about that. That's the one thing that I'm wondering about, not necessarily worried about, but I'm wondering about it. And I probably will send YouTube a little message myself just to see what's going on with that. Because I shouldn't have to worry about content that I made that another studio claimed. That's their responsibility now, because I'm not making any money off of that video. But yeah, just a little rant, just a little discussion on COPPA. And I wish it was the Copacabana. I wish that was all it was. I wish I was just talking about the Copacabana. Da 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 da. No, it's more YouTube bullshit and another just nail in what honestly might be the coffin of the platform. But anyway, thank you for watching this video, and if you got any more information, if you got any more details about this that you'd like to share, feel free to post it in the comments down below. And yeah, stay calm and try not to panic. See ya.